Hello, Dale Majors here, and welcome to day 7 of our Masterclass. You've made it to day 7, that's a lot, and to congratulate you and to celebrate, I've changed my shirt, okay? So, day 7, last time we went over the hats model, and the homework was to identify different roles that you have in life. And it's great timing for the call because I had an amazing conversation yesterday with one of my groups about goal setting, and I wanted to add this part to the last video before we get into talking about the actual outcome. Okay, so, and more with the 4 hats. So over the next few days, we're really going to dive deep into goal setting, and we're going to choose one of your roles. And based on this conversation, I think it'll help you decide which role we want to choose to set goals in over this next few days. So my friend Matt, who is a very wise person, on this call yesterday, he was talking about habit and how things become habitual. So for example, you may go to church every single week and you want that to be a habit, but you don't want the experience to become habitual. So there's an idea that we lose engagement over time. That you can lose engagement, right? So think about something that you do that's just become going through the motions. And one way that you can use goal setting and this HATS model is to identify roles in your life where the engagement is gone and really brainstorm around that area and do the goal setting process in that area. So, for example, if your workout and your physical fitness has stalled, then you would say, well, okay, I'm at this place. I'd really like to be a whole lot more fit. I'd like to feel more energy, right? Those hopes. I'd like to do this, but it doesn't stop there. Then you say, perfect. What does that look like if I were more fit, if I had more energy? And how can I start to quantify that? That's where the SMART goals really fit in. And then we're going to go to tactics and then specifics. So today specifically, we're going to talk about actual outcome. And we talked about the different hats or perspectives. And most of us wear a couple of those hats quite well. For me, I'm quite good at wearing the dreamer hat and also pretty good at wearing like the tactics hat as well. Like the hope hat and the tactics, I do pretty well. So go a little review. H stands for hope, and the personality type there is the dreamer. A, we're going to talk about that today, stands for actual outcome. What is it that you're actually going to do? That hat or that perspective I call the goal setter. Then there are tactics, T is for tactics, and I call that hat the pathfinder. And we'll talk a little bit about each of those. And then S stands for specifics. And I call that hat the willing worker. So as a dreamer, I a lot of times get these great ideas and I say, wow, it would be amazing if we did this thing. And one of the people in my life that is a definite goal setter is my brother Bruce. He very much, when I get into this mode of like, this will be so awesome if we do this, sometimes he'll stop me and he'll say, I love it, Dale. I love the energy. This is great. But what do you actually want to do? What are we actually going to accomplish? So he kind of pulls me in a little bit and helps me understand. He helps me quantify what it is that I'm actually hoping for. Okay, so my other brother Carl, there are 9 siblings in my family. My other brother Carl told me about a strategy framework that he learned about that I really liked. And it's called the Spaceman, Skyman, and Earthman strategy framework. Okay, so the idea is that you have a space idea, a sky idea, and an earth idea. And this framework really helps you come up and develop really great ideas, but you have to respect each person. So the spaceman, or the space idea, for example, let's imagine that we were brainstorming and we were trying to figure out how to develop a better mousetrap. So the earth idea is the idea that we already have. It's the spring, and you kill the mouse, you trap it when it eats the cheese, and that's it. It's the earth idea. A space idea might be there's this box that emits these signals that only mice can hear, and it repels them magically, to stay away 1,000 feet and to all head north, or something crazy like that, right? So, but then you say, okay, spaceman, thanks for the idea, but that helps you say, maybe you could make a box that did in fact emit a noise, and while we couldn't, cause them to go a certain direction, it could keep them out of a certain area. And hey, actually there's this technology that does that, and the hearing waves, that mice have or whatever, right? Like, it'll work. We know how to make that noise and sound, and that's a viable idea. So if you're brainstorming with other people, and this has to do with the HATS model too, right? If you're brainstorming with other people and you disregard the spaceman all the time because you say, that's a crazy idea. Hey, crazy guy. We all work with spacemen. And if you don't work with a spaceman, maybe you are the spaceman, right? Maybe you're the person with the spacey ideas of like, maybe it'd be so great. But what happens, and let me bring this back to the HATS model, my brother and I kind of operate in that relationship. This would be so awesome. What about this? And he'd say, well, I don't understand what you're trying to get to totally, but I'm trying to understand there and get there. How do we quantify that? What does that look like? What could we do today to make that work? So he's helping bring me down from space into a little bit more reality. So when I say, I really want to be more healthy and fit, he's saying, well, does that mean that you lower your BMI from 25 to 21? Does that mean that you go from being 175 pounds to 160? Does that mean that you clean up your diet and only eat natural foods? That's where the actual outcome comes in, this goal setter, to quantify concrete steps in reality that can be measured by the outside world. And that's the value. So as we go through this whole HATS model, it's an exercise of respecting each of those views. And tomorrow we're going to talk about the Pathfinder, and then the next day we're going to talk about the willing worker as we go through tactics and specifics. But the idea is that we on our own don't bring every single amazing perspective to the game. In order to be successful, we need all of the perspectives to build out these amazing plans. All right, for a second, let's talk about SMART goals, because if you're going to use the SMART goal formula, it really fits within the actual outcome. So a SMART goal is specific, measurable, attainable, R, realistic, and time-bound. So if I said, I've got some mountains to the east of my house, if I said I want to climb to that peak, that's more the hope, right? Like, and that's still immeasurable. And you got to realize with this that, well, what's the difference between the hope and the actual outcome? Make sure they're separate, especially when you get to actual outcomes versus strategies and tactics. Like, there's some crossing over, okay? There can be, though the hope is a non-quantifiable item. The actual outcome is quantifiable. The tactic is not quantifiable, and the specifics are quantifiable. Just keep that in mind as we go through this exercise. But if I wanted to go and climb that peak, then there are going to be certain milestones along the way, and that's what the actual outcomes would be. We're going to cross by Harmons in 45 minutes. We're going to get to the base of the mountain in 1 hour and 15 minutes, and we're going to get to the top to Flag Rock in 2 hours flat. And I know that because yesterday I hiked with the scouts and we walked all the way down 5 miles. It was amazing. So there you go. That's the SMART goal formula. Okay, so how big should our goals be? And really, I think that's so dependent on the person. If you can believe it and dream it and be motivated to work towards it, then have those big goals. And I think that if we're going to err having goals that are too big or too small, I think we err on having them too big. But one example that makes me think that I use when trying to determine like how big to set goals, or when I talk to people about this to get a feel. I've got a small child, a 1-year-old, okay? And when he was learning to walk, or when he was learning to crawl, maybe whatever, 6 months ago, we were in the front room and we put a red ball in front of him. And when it was just right in front of him, he would kind of scoot and grab the ball. But if it was too far, he wouldn't scoot. And I believe the differentiator is he didn't believe that he could get it. So if we make goals that are so ambitious that we don't believe them and we're not willing to work towards them, then that's a sign that they're too big. And we should readjust and make smaller goals. We really need to believe that we could potentially attain it. All right, another problem potentially with goals, and this is also person dependent, is they can disrupt the joy in the journey, where until we hit that goal, we're not going to be happy. And then when we hit that goal, maybe we're discontent and we want to go and find another goal. So I really believe that people are happiest when they're striving towards a worthy endeavor and when they're engaged, right? So we want to be engaged and we want to live in a way where there's high engagement and we're happy pursuing something. So we need to be careful that we don't let goals get in our way from enjoying the journey. And another reason I love this HATS model is because there's only the actual outcome is only one part of the equation. We then have tactics, which we're going to talk about tomorrow, and then we have the specific details around those tactics. And you can go about your life basically living in that tactic zone. Once you've gotten clear and done the planning around the hope and the actual outcomes, you can live in the journey as a tactician. I want to become an amazing speaker and coach and trainer. And one of the goals that I have is to establish a YouTube community with X followers, right? But the tactic that I'll use, I probably put the most focus into the tactic. I'm going to create videos on YouTube every single day. And if I do that for years on end, there's no way that I won't be amazing someday. So that's the tactic. It's more of the journey. So as long as I'm making videos every day and doing my best, then I'm a winner. Even if I don't have a certain amount of subscribers or other things, I just focus on doing the things that I've agreed to do in the tactics part of my goal, and just be happy, independent of some of the results. If I'm not getting results, then I may need to adjust those tactics. But otherwise, my focus is on the tactics, and that helps me maintain a journey mindset. All right, so thank you for being here during our talk about the actual outcome, the goal setter, and your homework for today is to take that role that you chose where you are maybe less engaged than you should be and create some actual outcomes for it. Create 2, 3, 4 actual outcomes, milestones that will tell you that you are in fact making progress towards your hope. And in our next video tomorrow, we're going to really dig deep into tactics and get clear on those. So I'm happy to be here with you. Thank you for watching and for being here with me on this masterclass. And I'll see you on the next video.